Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining in today. My name is Jordan, and on behalf of myself, our team here at Microsoft Surface, and our friends at Converge, we're all very grateful that you were able to take the time out of your busy schedules and learn a little bit more about some modern work solutions with Surface devices. Now, before I get too ahead of myself and start spoiling some of the fun, we do have just a little bit of housekeeping that I want to make sure we get out of the way first, just to make sure that everybody can get the most out of today's experience. So my first ask is that everybody here in attendance, if you would please right-click on me. Right there on your screen, you can right-click anywhere on me and select Fit to Frame. This will assure that Teams will take over the entirety of your screen and that you don't miss a single pixel of today's presentation. I mean, after all, we're coming to you live via Teams. I am here in our studio in Seattle, Washington, and no matter where you're visiting in from or where you're calling in from, we want to make sure that you're able to enjoy everything that we talk about today. Additionally, because we're here via Teams, we still crave your participation, and I want to hear any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, or even objections that you might have to anything that is said today. And of course, the way that we can go about doing that is through the Teams chat. I actually have eyes on the chat on a screen here directly to my left, and any comments or questions that you might have over the course of our session today, please feel free to drop them in there, and we will do our best to get them addressed in a timely fashion to the best of my abilities. And with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into a little bit of the meat of our presentation today. Now, we're going to be talking about a number of different things over the next 60 minutes or so. This is our agenda. First and foremost, we will talk about today's modern workplace, some of the challenges that we've all been faced over the last couple of years, post-pandemic and during the pandemic, that has forced us to all kind of alter the way that we have been working. Then we'll talk about some of our Surface device, some of the advancements we've made on our Surface team, towards modernizing the methods of securing and managing and deploying devices in this hybrid work world. And finally, we'll go ahead and meet some of the devices. We'll look at some of the advancements we've made specifically to our latest family members in our Surface line of devices and see just how well they are fit to the needs of this modern workplace, which let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about. We have really altered the way that we have all been working over the last 2 or 3 years. I don't think I need to tell anybody here that the last couple of years have been a little bit weird, some unprecedented times for a lot of us, as the pandemic has really forced us all to change the way that we go about living our lives, not just in the workplace, but in pretty much every aspect of our lives. And when it comes to working, hybrid work is here to stay. This combination of working in office and working at home, some people even full-time at home, is not going to go away. We're likely never going to see a return to quote-unquote normalcy pre-pandemic, and it's more about adjusting, adapting to, and learning to live with the way that we are now having to work in this hybrid work world. And one of the things that we have found recently is while over 70% of employees want the ability to have flexible remote options, they want the ability to have the choice to work in the office or at home or wherever they most see fit, at the same time, 67% want the in-person collaboration that comes with working in the office. And we call this the hybrid work paradox because we have to figure out how to let people, if I should say, have their cake and eat it too. How are we going to have people wanting the ability to work at home, but they still want those in-person collaborations offered within an in-person workspace? We've all been kind of feeling the brunt force of this hybrid work world over the last couple of years, having to quickly adapt to working in the office and at home with teams spread thinly. It's no wonder that people are, on one hand, enjoying the ability to work where they feel the most productive and most creative, but at the same time missing out on that in-person collaboration. We have partnered with a couple of different organizations, both Gartner and Forrester, to conduct some studies, and we've learned some interesting things. While the hybrid work paradox is what people want, they want the ability to work from home and the ability to have that in-person collaboration. This is the reality. This is what is actually happening. 50% of our global workforce is planning to remain in a remote or at-home work status, whether they are part-time in office, part-time at home, or full-time at home. Half of all people are intending to stay working this way. On top of that, 55% of employees say the ability to work flexibly will impact whether or not they choose to stay with their current employer. People, as you saw earlier, 73% want these flexible options, and the reason for that is people are liking the ability to work where they choose. And being offered that ability or not is determining a lot of people's career trajectories. And as you can see here, over half of all employees that were surveyed for this data admitted that they are willing to switch careers or switch companies if it means that they are able to work in a way that they see fit. And the big number here is that 90% of employers are planning to adopt a hybrid work method in order to help retain their talent, in order to help kind of meet the challenges that we're all being faced, which are as such. Don't we just love a smooth transition like that? There are a number of challenges that I'm sure a lot of us here are already familiar with because we're all living the same kind of experience with this transition to hybrid work. First and foremost, you have IT members within your organization who are now having to figure out how to manage devices across a workforce that might be spread across the city, state or province, country, or even globe. So how do they manage these devices? How do they make sure that they can deploy them into the hands of each and every employee safely and securely? Of course, the employees themselves are risking cognitive overload, having to fight off the burnout that we are often feeling now that people aren't working that typical 9 to 5 as much. Flexible work does offer the ability for some different hours, and a lot of people are feeling that kind of burnout. So making sure that we can stave that off and offer people devices that enable them to work efficiently without overworking from home is also important. These are tied together beautifully. This communication barriers and work style flexibility, that is the hybrid work paradox. We just talked about that. People want to break down these communication barriers that they face when they're having to join into a conference call with their team members who are spread thin across the country or globe, all the while maintaining that work style flexibility. And then finally, one of the key things and one of the most important things that a lot of organizations are facing, which we will take a little bit of a tongue twister, we will take a closer look at in just a moment, is data security. Now that you don't have everybody working within the walls of your office, within your secure network, making sure that your organizational data, that your employees themselves, their tech is all able to remain safe and secure is paramount, and more important now, more so than ever. We have made some advancements with our operating system here at Microsoft when it comes to meeting the needs of this hybrid work world. Windows 11 is currently our safest and most advanced operating system to date. When partnered with Windows 11 with our Surface devices and our cloud management, which again we will dive into deeper here in just a moment, a lot of our customers are seeing some improvements in the way that their corporations are able to work and in their employee satisfaction. Windows 11 is a new operating system. It's got a new name, it's got a new experience, but it is designed so that it can match kind of the experiences that a lot of people already have with Windows 10 so that you can continue working with Windows 11 and make it easier to make that transition. Because we know consistency is what's most important, especially for a lot of IT individuals within organizations. So the ability to build on the fundamentals that they've already built with Windows 10 and kind of expand their productivity and collaboration was one of the biggest things that we put a lot of TLC, that tender loving care, into Windows 11 with. It's specifically designed for hybrid environments so that you can effortlessly work with everybody within your organization no matter where they might find themselves. And it works perfectly with all your existing apps and infrastructure. So again, it's easy to use, deploy within an organization. It's intuitive and significantly more advanced. Now, that's the operating system. And I know I've teased a little bit about some of our deployment methods, some of our management methods, some of our security methods. And I'm sure that's something that's on the forefront of a lot of individuals and a lot of companies' minds. And so we're going to do a real deep dive into some of the advancements we've made when it comes to our modern and secure device management. I am sure that everybody here is familiar with viruses, things that attack the operating system, things that attack Windows 11 or what have you. Now, we're so familiar with viruses that we've had antivirus software built into our operating system all the way since Windows 8 and every subsequent version. That, of course, includes Windows 11. But the bad guys, the malicious actors, if you will, those who are looking to leech off your company's data, take advantage of your employees, those who are really looking to harm you, they have gotten craftier, and they have begun to attack an area of the device that exists before the operating system even boots. And this is known as the UEFI and the firmware. Now, these attacks have become more and more common in recent years, starting in January 2018 with Spectre and Meltdown. Then a year later, in January 2019, another attack on firmware. September of 2020, an attack on UEFI. It started to get so bad that here in the United States, our National Security Agency in September of 2020 released a statement basically saying, hey y'all, you should really think about protecting your UEFI and your firmware. But that announcement from the National Security Agency came just a little too late, because a few short months later in December of 2020, we saw another attack on UEFI and firmware. So what can be done? What have we done? Well, here on the Surface team, we have really modernized the approach to protecting this area of your device. The UEFI and the firmware can now be protected zero-touch via the cloud thanks to our device firmware configuration interface, or the DFCI. And I know that I'm throwing kind of a lot of acronyms at you in a very short period of time, but just bear with me. The device firmware configuration interface is something that is exclusive only to Surface devices. Currently, only Surface devices allow you to manage and protect the firmware and UEFI areas of your devices via the cloud. The only other way to have this same level of protection is through a physical password that's on the physical device that you better not lose, because if you do, it can never be recovered. So not only do we think that this is a much more modernized way of going about and protecting our devices, but we think it's a lot more intelligent too, enabling you to protect this area of the device, every device within your organization's ecosystem, no matter where each individual might find themselves, because now IT members can't have physical hands on every single device in this hybrid work world when you have coworkers living in different areas. On my team, I have team members that work in Florida and North Carolina, even Canada. Our IT department is based in Canada and I'm here in Seattle, but we're able to fully manage and protect our devices thanks to advancements like our zero-touch UEFI management through the DFCI. Love the acronyms. But this is only a small part of security when it comes to Surface devices. I always like this little blip here, but chip-to-cloud security is built into Surface DNA. Every single one of our devices has a multi-tiered approach to security to make sure our devices are secure and safe and that you can feel comfortable and secure in using them. I like to call it the cake, this multi-tiered cake of protection, starting with the outermost layer of any cake, that frosting with the cloud. The cloud is, of course, tasked with remotely preventing, detecting, and responding to data breaches, any sort of malicious activity that might be going on. Then you've got the operating system, that vanilla layer of the cake, that Windows 11, as I mentioned earlier, is our most secure operating system to date. And I know what you might be thinking. It's the newest operating system that you've launched. I sure would hope that it's the safest, and you're right, and it is. Then the chocolate, I guess we'll call it. This is going to be a multi-flavored cake. Neapolitan, I think. We've got our firmware. Now, this is, again, that DFCI level of protection, only available with Surface devices to let you securely manage this area through the cloud. And then the strawberry with the hardware, the kind of protections you would expect the physical device to have when it comes to making sure your device remains secure. Our devices have TPM 2.0, BitLocker, Windows Hello. This offers biometrics, so depending on the device that you utilize within the Surface family, we have devices that have fingerprint scanners. We have devices that have facial recognition. The device that I use, the Surface Laptop Studio, in my day-to-day work, has such in-depth facial recognition through the Windows Hello that it can tell the difference between identical twins. It's not just taking a picture of my face and memorizing it. It uses infrared cameras to take a full scan of the dimensions of my face, and it needs a living, breathing person in front of the device. So you couldn't even hold up a high-definition photograph of myself and enter my device. If you were to go to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, you know what I'm referring to, that creepy wax museum in Hollywood where they have all those lifelike statues of celebrities, If for some reason she had a statue of me in her wax museum, you wouldn't be able to utilize that to get into my device. Because sure, the statue might be three-dimensional, but it's not a living person. It doesn't have that heat signature, so you won't be able to enter into the device. I like to throw out that little analogy, that little story, because I think it's pretty cool. Plus, it's not only safer, but it's so much faster than a typical password too. All I have to do is open up my studio, it looks at me, and half a second later, I'm logged into my device. It's safe, it's secure, and it's quick. And when we have heard feedback from our customers, we found that they have seen a 20% reduction in security breaches when utilizing Surface devices within their organization, partnered with this multi-tiered cake of protections with Microsoft 365. So we have made a lot of advancements when it comes to our security, but not just our security, our management as well. Our Surface devices have Microsoft Endpoint Manager. This comprises an array of different management solutions, including our old school configuration manager. Oops, didn't mean to cross that out. Underline, old school configuration manager, as well as Microsoft Intune. All of these integrated together to give you a full view of your organization's computing environment. Located within Microsoft Intune is the Microsoft Surface Management Portal. The Surface Management Portal enables you to have kind of an all-seeing eye. I like to refer to it as the eye of Sauron within your organization so that you can see the specifics of every single device, warranty statuses, summarized view of IT help desk and support ticket requests, even a curated list of news for IT personnel. Here, we're going to go ahead and take a closer look at what I mean within the Surface Management Portal. So, for example, you can view insights here into the health of every single Surface device within your organization. So now IT individuals who might be located in a completely different location than the rest of your workforce can still manage all of the devices. You can see here we have the device's specific name. We have the owner of the device within the organization, Renata Hall, for this example, who has a Surface book which has this big long serial number that I won't bother reading off for you, and we can see that her device is non-compliant. We can see its total storage and free storage remaining, myriad of different integrations that you're able to view for every single device. You can view its warranty status, as I already mentioned, so IT individuals can see that we have 3 devices within our organization with expired warranties and 10 that are ready to expire within 60 days. Additionally, there are 22 devices eligible for optional coverage. Just again, multiple tiers within this system. Finally, we'll hop over here and look at support. As I mentioned, you can see the support ticket requests. So you have 38 open requests, 38 people within your organization having a IT-related issue with their device, 64 recently closed requests. Like I said, that Eye of Sauron analogy, I understand that he is a classic all-time literary and cinematic villain, so it might be a little bit of a weird analogy, but you can clearly see, you are able to see the entirety of your Middle-earth, for the Tolkien fans out there, but your computing environment is what I mean by that. Now, once you're confident that your devices can be securely protected and managed via the cloud through this hybrid workforce, there's still the challenge of getting these devices into everybody's hands when you're spread so thin across the entire world. Well, we have made some advancements there as well. For anybody who might be watching or in attendance here who is part of an IT team, I'm sure you're very familiar with the traditional method of deploying Windows devices. Having to create that custom image with all the specific drivers, settings, policies, and applications that each individual or each role within the organization requires. Then having to deploy that custom image to every single new device through an ocean of Ethernet cables and a mountain of USB sticks, and then just doing this over and over and over and over again in some sort of IT purgatory for every single new device that comes into the organization. This traditional Windows deployment method simply does not work anymore in this hybrid work world. How can you expect an IT member to completely have hands-on and hook up a sea of Ethernet cables and a mountain of USB sticks for a device that belongs to an employee living in a completely different state? Well, we've gone about modernizing the way that we deploy our Windows devices as well in response to this, to the pandemic and to the needs that we have found our customers meeting. So when it comes to our modern Windows deployment through Autopilot, this is our zero-touch deployment. It looks a little something like this. It's very similar starting off with building a deployment profile, very similar to those custom images, with all the driver settings, policies, and applications that the individual or the role might need. But this time around, it can be deployed to every single new device within the organization via the cloud without anybody except the end user ever having to have physical hands on the device. And then, that's it. There's not even and then. That's as simple as it gets. These deployment profiles are created and uploaded to each device via the cloud, and then the end user gets their hands on it and deploys it from home themselves. What does that look like? Well, we're going to do a little bit of a walkthrough. I love this point. This is the life cycle of a Surface device as it would pertain to your organization. So, first things first is your organization decides, you know what? We like these Surface devices and we want a bunch of them and we want to deploy them with Autopilot Zero Touch. So the first thing you do is you get with your friends over at Converge and you build that tailored solution that best fits your organization. Obviously, whatever devices you want, along with any additional accessories and Microsoft 365 licenses and what have you that might suit the needs of your organization. From there, we will go ahead and ship the devices directly to your end users. While sure, you can go ahead and have them shipped to you and you can divvy them out yourself if you so choose, that's just fine. But we can get them directly into the hands of every single user, which is all the more streamlined and all the more quick. These deployment profiles can be created either initially upon the purchase of the devices or even while they're still in transit. IT members can be building these deployment profiles via the cloud and making sure, again, they can be built for each individual or even each role. So everyone within your sales department or your IT department or even your HR department will have a completely different deployment experience depending on the kind of applications that they need. All the while, when it finally gets to the end user, into the hands of the employee, for our purposes today, we have Anna here, who just started on the sales team at Kintoso. She gets her hands on the device. Her deployment profile is all ready to go, and all she has to do is open up that device up. She will be prompted along the way of setting it up, and over the course of a few moments to an hour or two, depending on Anna's role and the size and power of the applications and licenses that she might require, she will be ready to rock and roll from home all on her own, and that's it. We call it zero touch for a reason. Literally nobody except the end user has to have physical hands on the actual device. Her device is fully set up, and she's ready to begin her long and happy sales career at Kintoso, until, of course, Anna leaves Kintoso. Did she quit? Was she fired? We don't know. All we know is now we have a device without an owner within the organization. So what happens next? Well, each and every device can then be re-provisioned and redeployed for a myriad of future users until it finally reaches its responsible long-time end user. This can happen again as many times as necessary. The device can be cleared, it can be re-provisioned, and it can be redeployed as many times as necessary until it reaches our end user here, who is Raul. Now, Raul has a long and happy career at Kintoso, and his deployment profile is able to be uploaded and deployed to the device just as easily as the very first one with Anna, no matter how many other deployment profiles have been uploaded to it since. And then, when Raul finally retires after that long and happy career, or if the device reaches the end of its life first, it can be deprovisioned and removed from your organization that easily. That is what the life cycle of a Surface device looks like when utilizing Windows Autopilot within your organization. It is smooth, it's seamless, it's easy. You don't have to have people divvying out devices and setting them up by hand. It can all be done via the cloud, which is so important now that you don't have employees coming into the office every day. But if you're looking at this zero-touch deployment and you're thinking to yourself, that's still not fast enough, well, do I have news for you? That sounded awfully like a game show hosty, which is not intentional. But we have an even quicker method of deployment from our zero-touch deployment, and that is called pre-provision deployment. Now, what pre-provision deployment is for, We view this as being a great fit for higher-ups within your organization, VIPs within the organization, people who truly don't have 45 minutes to an hour or two to let their device deploy on hand, and they need it up and running as soon as they get the device. So we created pre-provisioned deployment with this in mind. It's very similar to our zero-touch deployment, but this time, somebody from IT or somebody from your partners at Converge will intercept the device on its way to its end user. They will intercept the device and they will begin the deployment process for them. They'll open it up, they'll quickly begin the deployment process, and then they can reseal the device and ship it off to the end user, who in this case again is Anna, but this time she is a VIP within Kintosa's organization. So this time around, the device has been resealed, shipped off to its end user, and when Anna opens it up, it's a matter of minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and the device is ready to go again. That's why it's called pre-provision deployment. This time around, instead of being zero touch, I like to refer to it as light touch deployment, because just brief opening up the device from somebody else to get that party started so that when it gets into the end user's hand, it is all ready to go. And whether you utilize zero-touch deployment or you utilize pre-provision deployment with Autopilot, there are some specific benefits that come to utilizing Surface devices specifically with Autopilot deployment in general. That these are not available for typical other Windows devices. Well, any Windows device that is so certified can be deployed via Autopilot. When utilizing a Surface device, you get things like the fact that we shipped with Microsoft Signature Image. What this means is our devices won't come pre-installed with some of that initial software that you don't even intend to keep on the device. You might have an idea what I might be referring to, but in a nutshell, it is a clean installation of Windows 11 Pro. Additionally, Office installation files are pre-uploaded to every single one of our devices for even quicker deployment. What this means is in a neck-to-neck race with a Surface device and any other Windows device, they're both being deployed via Autopilot and they're going at the same speed. But once the Surface device has been deployed, it's ready to use because all of those Office applications like your Word, your Outlook, your PowerPoint, they are already pre-uploaded to the device. The other Windows device now still has to falter as the employee has to then download all of those installation files themselves. So in that neck-to-neck race, Surface device is ready to go even quicker. Of course, when utilizing Surface devices, you have that DFCI, the device firmware configuration interface that enables you to protect your firmware in UEFI. We've touched on that quite a bit, but of course, another shout out here because that is something only Surface devices can do in the cloud. And then finally, we also offer the ability to have your devices if you have a device that's faulty within your organization or a device breaks, if one of your employees throws their device a little aggressively into their work bag after a long day or accidentally has their child spill juice on it or what have you, we will ship a replacement device before you even send back the faulty or broken device. With this advanced exchange that really helps reduce friction and workflows between your employees who might be working in a hybrid setting because we can make sure that they don't lose a single step when they might have an issue with their device. So all of these are the specific benefits that come when utilizing Surface devices specifically with the Autopilot deployment method. Now, we've talked a whole lot about the advancements that we've made when it comes to our safety, security, to our deployment, to our management when it comes to Surface devices and how they're well fit for this hybrid work world, but why don't we go ahead and actually learn a little bit about the devices themselves. We have made a myriad of advancements to the actual specific devices, not just the methods around protecting and managing them, but the actual devices themselves when it comes to making them a good fit for the hybrid work world. We understand that for a lot of your work from anywhere employees, the device that you provide them with is going to be their only physical connection or one of their only physical connections to the actual office. Having devices that make work from anywhere a great experience, not only for the employees that rely on them, but also for those who are tasked with managing and protecting them is incredibly important. Having that modernized and intelligent device strategy, being able to create flexible work environments that energize everybody within the organization, being able to reduce the friction workflow between people working in office and people working at home, enabling them to have that same level of collaboration that they're missing, as we mentioned at the beginning with that hybrid work paradox, people wanting the ability to collaborate as if they were in the same office space, but they can't be in the same office space. All of this is part of having that intelligent device strategy. Making sure that everyone is able to be seen through their cameras, that they are able to be heard through their microphones, and in turn listen in through their speakers is some of the major areas that we've put our focus into when it comes to ensuring we can have that kind of collaboration between our hybrid work employees. When it comes to our cameras, our crystal clear cameras have patented tuning algorithms that are specifically designed to make all human skin tones look more natural. We want everyone to feel that they are being represented as their true self to all of their coworkers, to all of their employees, or to all of their customers on the other end of the camera that they might be using. So again, devices like our Surface Pro 8, our Surface Laptop Studio have full high-resolution cameras that face directly at the user, and again, they are specifically tuned for those human skin tones. Similarly, we partnered with Dolby on our speakers to make sure that they are all certified Dolby Audio Premium or even Dolby Atmos, which is their highest level of certification. And we finally tuned these to the human voice. So the cameras tuned to human skin tones, the speakers tuned to the human voice. And what I mean by that is, sure, if you were to play your Bach or Beethoven or any other classical music that doesn't have any human voices in it from a Surface device, it'll still sound great. But we also understand that the slightest difference in inflection in someone's pronunciation of a word or even a noun or the formulation of a sentence can completely change the idea that they're trying to convey to those on the other end of the camera based off of region, based off of dialect or language. And so we want to make sure that nobody gets misconstrued and again is fully represented. So we put that kind of TLC, again, tender loving care, I'm going to keep throwing that out there, into our speakers so that people can communicate with ease across the hybrid work world. And very similarly, we've put a lot of thought into our microphones as well, because not only do you have to listen in, but you also have to be heard to those on the other end. So our dual far-field studio microphones built into our Surface devices, dual, of course, meaning two, which I'm sure everybody here knew, probably didn't have to shout that out, but its dual far-field studio microphones mimic the human ear. There's two ears, there's two microphones, and it offers that spatial awareness of sound. So whether you're the type of person that likes to sit directly in front of your device at your workstation, stare into the camera, speak into the microphones, and listen directly from the speakers, those microphones will pick you up. But if you're more like me, obviously a little bit more energetic, and you're up and you're walking around your entire workstation, those dual far-field studio microphones will pick you up and isolate you so that, again, you can be heard with ease. When it comes to things like our speakers and our microphones, the way that we fine-tune these to this nth degree, I actually think is pretty interesting, and I always love to shout out. But here at our headquarters in Washington State, we have the Guinness Book of World Records quietest place on planet Earth. That is the anechoic chamber. This chamber is a space that has such a reduction in ambient sound, it's near zero, that we can't even recommend a human being spend more than 15 minutes within its walls, or you risk falling over. Our inner ears that control our balance are so, they require that ambient noise to maintain our equilibrium, so in a space that lacks it, you risk falling over. But we utilize this space to test our speakers, to test our microphones to that nth degree. Not even the speakers and mics, but we also test some of the things, some of the sounds the device makes that you might not even take into consideration in your normal day-to-day. The sound the fan makes when it's at full capacity, or the sound the device makes when it's plugged into a charger, all to make sure that the devices run smoothly, that the speakers and microphones work exactly the way that we want them. All of that is done here within that anechoic chamber. So always love to shout that out. I think it's very cool. I have not had a chance to visit the anechoic chamber myself, but I hope to one day, and my goal is to beat that 15 minutes. I'm going to make it 16 minutes within the anechoic chamber without falling over. Now, let's talk about our actual devices themselves. I like to call this the Brady Bunch photo. It's this nice, smiley, happy photograph of our current Surface family members. We have them broken down into families within the families here. We have our versatile 2-in-1s. These devices are made to emulate not only a laptop form factor, but also a tablet as well. Their keyboards are able to detach magnetically so that you can hold it and utilize it as a tablet. You can ink and annotate and touch on the screens. We have the Pro 8, which is the latest in our Surface Pro line. It's actually the first major physical redesign of the Surface Pro line, offering more surface space, but still with that 2-in-1 iconic Surface aspect ratio. Yeah, excuse me. We also have our Go 3, which is the smallest and lightest Surface device yet. It's LTE, advanced connectivity, and touch. It has that pixel sense display for inking. These are great to slide into a work bag and to move around your day-to-day. We have our classic laptop form factors, such as the Laptop 4, which is exactly that. It's our ultra-thin, sleek, and light laptop. Classic laptop for you to utilize as you see fit. The newest member of our Surface family, you'll find this interesting, was just released about last week, is this Laptop Go 2. And shown here in this picture, I don't know how well you can see it up on your screen, so I'll go ahead and circle it just to draw extra attention. It's shown in this image in the newest color, which is sage green. This device is coming in sage green. Green's my favorite color, so I like to shout that out, but this Laptop Go 2 has the style, performance, and battery life that you expect from a Surface device, but it's also offered at a much more approachable price point. And then, of course, within that laptop family is our flagship device. I shouted this device out a little bit earlier, that Laptop Studio. It's the device that I use in my day-to-day, that I can use those Windows Hello facial recognition biometrics to access. The device has 3 different modes, so it can be stood up in a laptop mode. It can fold down, as shown in this image, into what's called stage mode, so you can utilize the trackpad still while consuming content off the screen, and it folds all the way down to 165 degrees into studio mode so that you can ink and annotate on its screen. And then finally, the last family within the family is kind of the oddballs, the odd ones out, but we still love them. Every family has a few of those. We have our Hub 2S, which is actually the device that I am coming to you live on. It's offered in 2 different sizes. This is the 50-inch size that is set on a stand. This device is uniquely designed for collaboration efforts. You can wheel this from room to room and turn any given space into a next-level collaboration space so that you can connect and collaborate with your team members in a hybrid work world. You can run Teams meetings from this device where you can open up those Microsoft whiteboards. It's specifically designed to make those Microsoft whiteboards all the more intuitive because it basically turns itself into a whiteboard. And then everybody, no matter where they're located, if they join into that Teams meeting, they can interact with that whiteboard themselves, and that really helps kind of bring down some of those barriers between those in the office and those who are working from home or Starbucks or an airplane or wherever they find themselves. I mentioned it comes in 2 sizes. Again, this is the 50-inch. There's also what I call the Leviathan, the 85-inch that hangs up on a wall. It's mounted. It lives there. When you walk into a room where the 85-inch hub is hung, it feels like there's a semi-truck hung up on the wall. It's amazing, and again, has that same level of collaboration, just a huge digital whiteboard and connectivity device. There's the Duo 2, which is our mobile to transform mobile productivity, as it says right there. It has 2 screens that are foldable and can slide right into your pocket with ease. So as you can see, we have a full wide array of devices. We could spend hours diving into every single one of these. I know we don't have time for that today, but I want to shout all of them out. And at the end, I'll shout out an area where you can go to learn a little bit more about each and every single one of these if you so choose. Now, when it comes to our devices, while we've put all that TLC into the cameras, into the speakers, into the microphones across the entire family, we also have a commitment to accessibility here at Microsoft and on the Surface team. We understand that not everybody within your organization has the same level of ability. And we want to make sure that everybody, regardless of their ability level, is able to take full control of the Surface device that you provide them with. So we have created things like our Surface Adaptive Kit. Now, the point of this device is, while there are certain things that those of us who are maybe more typically abled might take for granted when it comes to utilizing a device, they're not inherently easy for everybody. Things like opening the lid of a laptop, opening the kickstand of one of our 2-in-1s, finding the correct key to begin typing, or connecting the correct cable to its corresponding port. So the Surface Adaptive Kit has things like keycap labels, 3-dimensional bump labels, port indicators, and different openers and levers that can be connected to the device, as you can see in a number of these images, to make them more intuitive to use for everybody. When you're providing Surface devices throughout your organization, as I mentioned, you want to make sure everybody is able to utilize the full premium power that you expect from the Surface device. So the Surface Adaptive Kit is specifically designed so that everybody can do just that. On top of inclusivity, We also have a commitment to environmental consciousness here at Microsoft and on the Surface team. We have conducted a study here to find that 70% say that they would go out of their way to support an organization that makes strong efforts in sustainability. Additionally, 80% of employees across the world that we surveyed, specifically global supply chain professionals, are involved in corporate sustainability efforts in some way or another, and 81% at the same time feel that we aren't doing enough as a society to combat wastefulness. Personally, I agree with that. As a young person myself who's hoping for a nice, bright future, I would love for us all to put a little bit more of that tender, loving care, there's that shout out again, into the way that we treat our planet. And I'm very proud to be working for an organization that does just that. Microsoft and the Surface team have some very bold goals when it comes to our environmental commitments. By the year 2030, we commit to you that every single Surface device that we manufacture, including its packaging, will be 100% recyclable. So not only will the cardboard box be something that you can recycle, but when the device truly reaches the end of its life within your organization and there's no more use for it, or it breaks down, or it's faulty, it itself can also be 100% recycled. Additionally, Microsoft as a whole commits to not only be a carbon negative company by the year 2030, but that we will also achieve zero waste status from our direct operations by that same year. And while these are the goals for the future, and again, I'm very proud to be working for an organization with such bold goals, that doesn't mean we haven't already begun making strides in the right direction. We have already achieved EPEAT Gold and Energy Star certification status. This is the highest level of EPEAT rating, and this is across our latest products of devices. That current Surface family photograph that I showed you, the Brady Bunch photograph, they are all very environmentally conscious. So while we have our goals for the year 2030, which is rapidly coming up on us, we have also already begun making steps in that right direction. And all of this, all of the thought that we've put into our devices, from the accessibility, from the environmental consciousness, from the efforts we've put into our speakers and our microphones and our cameras, everything that we just talked about has shown some serious results. We partnered with our friends at Forrester to conduct another study from the viewpoint of our Surface customers, and we found that 80% of them agree that the implementation and utilization of Surface devices within their organization help position their organization as a top employer. As we have seen more and more people being willing to leave their current jobs and looking for greener pastures, if you will, people are looking for places that they know are going to offer them the support and technology that they need in order to succeed in this hybrid work world. And people are beginning to realize that Surface devices and organizations that provide them do just that. 82% agree that Surface devices helped improve employee retention. So not only drawing in new talent, but again, making sure that you are able to retain your current talent as well and allow people to work the way that they best see fit and to collaborate across this hybrid work world. And it all accumulates together in this nice little bow down to here with 86% of those surveyed agreeing that Surface devices improved overall employee satisfaction. Everything that we've already talked about, all tied up with 86% agreeing on that fact. So as you can see, there's a lot, the work that we've put into has shown some serious results here, and it comes to employee satisfaction, when it comes to the success of organizations utilizing Surface devices. And the combination here of partnering with your friends at Converge, utilizing Microsoft Surface devices, and the different powers of Microsoft 365 through the different tiers of security within that Neapolitan cake of security, all of these tied together really help boost any organization to succeed here within this hybrid work world. And we've covered a lot today. I haven't seen any questions coming through the chat. I want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to do so as we kind of wrap up here, but I know that we've talked about a lot. As I mentioned here in just a second, I will shout out to where you can go to learn a little bit more about the devices specifically. I hope that you can all see that we have made some serious strides in the right directions here on the Surface team. We've listened to the feedback of a lot of our customers as we've moved into transitioning into this hybrid work world, and we want to make sure all of our devices are suited to match the needs of those working in it. So while we appreciate your time here today, I have a couple last shout outs here for you. First and foremost, please, to learn a little bit more about the devices, you can go to exploresurface.com. We have 3D models of every single member of our Surface family that you can go ahead and explore. We're going to go ahead and drop this link down into the chat. But for those of you who made it to the end, we would love to hear what you thought of today's presentation. Please go to presenting.live/modern-workplace-survey-3. Again, we're going to drop that into the chat, and we would just love to hear any honest feedback when it comes to how you felt the session went. Any additional questions that you might have, please reach out to your Converge representative. I'm sure they would love to talk to you about any of the solutions, any of the devices, and anything else that we discussed today. And with that, it has been an absolute pleasure being with you here today. My name again is Jordan. On behalf of myself, our team here at Microsoft Surface, and our friends at Converge, I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thank you.